Hey guys, how's it going? davidinark here, and today we're in BeamNG Drive, and I thought it would be fun to take the 8,000 mile an hour challenge that some of the other YouTubers around are doing with this particular mod. This is the V10 Beast, and this thing is amazingly fast, but more importantly, it will go over 8,000 miles an hour, and my guess is that with a little tweaking, we'll finally get over 9,000. But for now, we're shooting for 8,000. So I will tell you this: driving this car is quite a unique challenge. In fact, the way I ended up doing this was I held the accelerator down, and then I took a lightning cable from an iPhone and used the flat end to wedge into the accelerator so that I wouldn't have to mess with it anymore. It was just set on accelerate. Then the next thing you're going to notice on here is that as we are cruising along, first of all, check out the craziness happening with the tires. That is insane. Oh my gosh. And evidently that's part of the problem with getting vehicles to go so fast, is that the tires get destroyed, they break, whatever. So I don't know anything about how you custom make cars and how all the J-beams work and all that stuff, but evidently there's a way to strengthen the tires so that they have the ability to expand like you're seeing here, but also to, actually retain their shape, generally speaking. So they sort of resemble tires, right? They're round and once had tread on them or something along those lines. So we are flying along here. As you can see, I'm already at 3,200 miles an hour. Now, you can't look at the actual speedometer on the far right side. That is how fast, if I'm not mistaken, that's how fast the tires are going as they touch the ground or something. I can't remember what that is. But anyway, in the center, just below the license plate, you see the airspeed, and that is your actual speed that you are, well, frankly, flying across the ground. And so we are at 3,600 miles an hour, and this took probably about 30 minutes, a little longer than 30 minutes all told, to get to 8,000 miles an hour. And we'll see that here in a little bit, but the other thing that you're going to notice is you'll see this car bouncing and shifting and moving back and forth all over the place. I actually did a couple of trial runs with this car to get a feel for how it works and what to watch out for. And actually one of the runs, and I'll post these later just as kind of bonus videos, but one of the runs, I literally set it to accelerate, and I walked out the door. I mean, went and had some breakfast and watched some TV and hung out with my wife, and then came back and checked on it, and it was a complete disaster. The car was upside down going, I don't even know how fast at that point, about 5,000 miles an hour, and just, I mean, it was on its way down, basically. So one of the things that I kind of figured out is that you have to try to keep the general motion of the vehicle moving in a straight line if at all possible. So not really paying attention to what the car is doing, because the car is going to be bouncing all over the place. I mean, you can already see, look at that. The back end of this thing is just swinging left and right, and the faster you go, the more pronounced that becomes. But where you really have to start to concentrate are the lines that are the dark lines that are part of the grid. And this is just my own experimentation. I have no idea if this really has anything to do with it. But what I sort of deduced was that the better you can keep the whole vehicle itself, tires and everything, pretty much heading down a straight path that is pretty much parallel to, in line with those dark lines that you see in the grid, then the better the car performed and the faster you could get the car to go without it like wigging out the physics and all that kind of stuff. So again, you see here, roughly 5,500 miles an hour, and the back end of this thing is swinging all over the place. Check out the tires. They are just growing out of control. It is crazy. But again, what I'm trying to do is maintain that stability between the dark lines of the grid. Now, the tires were getting so big that it was they were obstructing my view of the grid. So you'll see a couple of times throughout this video where I move the camera up a little bit, just because I needed to be able to see the grid on the map so that I could try to keep the car within dark lines heading in one direction, if at all possible. Now, having said that, one of the things that I need to warn you about, if you are susceptible to flashing lights and you know, those kinds of things, if it's going to trigger something in you, you want to be careful with this video, because you're going to see that going this fast really, really freaks out the game. And if you have the game and you're going to try this at home, please, please know that that is a real issue. I'm not susceptible to those, and I have to tell you, I had to look away many times just because the flashing was just kind of, it's such a strong strobe effect with the game trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So just be aware of that as you're playing or as you're watching. So as I continue here, what I'm doing is I'm actually playing with the keyboard. I thought about playing with the controller, and I may try this again with the controller, but because I'm using the keyboard here, all I'm trying to do is use my right and left arrow keys to try to center the entirety of the vehicle within those parallel lines. And the way that works is that if the lines, so you see these lines, they're moving from left to right. I know it's kind of hard to tell. Well, now they've shifted. So now they're going from right to left. So whatever way they are headed, that's the side that you're going to push to try to counteract that, right? So if the lines are moving to the left, then you push the left arrow key. And my experience was that I had to actually tap the key, that holding the key didn't seem to help at all. But if I tapped the key repeatedly, then I could get things to settle down. And then as you can see here, we're actually going pretty decently parallel. And then you'll notice that the lines start to shift left to right again. So now I start smacking the right arrow key until I can get that settled down and bring it back. And in my experience, doing that helped keep the vehicle going down a relatively straight path and allowed that vehicle to continue to gain speed. I mean, if you look at this now, we are quickly approaching, because this is time lapse, we are quickly approaching the 7,000 mile an hour mark. Just take a moment and let that soak in. 7,000 miles an hour. That is insane, man. Not to mention insane. Check out the crazy tires. They're now like, I don't know, Frisbees or something, man. They are super crazy little discs. But look at the vehicle. I mentioned this before. Notice how the back end is just all over the place. And as you're playing this, if you start to concentrate on what the vehicle is doing, it will really throw you off, because you want to straighten the vehicle out, right? Subconsciously or consciously. You're thinking, oh, I got to straighten the vehicle out. And actually, you don't have to worry about that. The vehicle will straighten itself out as long as you can pretty much keep it straight. Now, you'll notice that the lines here are going from right to left in an insane amount of speed. Basically, the faster you're going, the quicker that kind of transition takes place. So now you can see here, I raised up the camera once again because I was losing focus of the grid lines, and you'll notice that now they've shifted again back left to right. So now I'm, again, smacking that right arrow key, trying to get things settled down. You can see the lines are starting to settle down. And actually, somewhere in here, it actually maintains a pretty good, just straight and narrow path. You'll see this, especially here coming up in just about a minute or so, where as we're approaching 8,000 miles an hour, it really maintains that straight on parallel driving. I mean, it is phenomenal. It's so cool, and this was so much fun to do. Although I have to say, concentrating on the grid and not so much what was happening on screen with the car, for me anyway, that really helped me focus on what I needed to do to try to help this car reach the 8,000 plus mark. So we are quickly approaching the 8,000 mile an hour mark, and I am going to tell you, sort of a spoiler here as we get closer, but at the 8,079 mile an hour mark, my game crashes, and so it just bombs out. I've been having some weird problems with the game anyhow. I probably just need to uninstall and reinstall, but I just wanted to let you know that is what was going on. As you can see now, we're at 7,940, almost 50. The other thing is, the faster you're going and the closer you get to 8,000, the longer it's taking to get to those next mileposts. So anyhow, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Got any questions, problems, suggestions, horror stories? Feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. Oh, and by the way, I had to update my audio drivers, and so there's no in-game sound, which drives me bonkers. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time on BeamNG Drive.